The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
When the Magi had departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Rise, take the child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there until I tell you. Herod is going to search for the child to destroy him." Joseph rose and took the child and his mother by night and departed for Egypt. He stayed there until the death of Herod, that what the Lord had said through the prophet might be fulfilled. "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod had died, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Rise, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the child's life are dead." He rose and took the child and his mother and went to the land of Israel. But when he had heard that Archelaus was ruler over Judea in the place of his father, he was afraid to go back there. And because he had been warned in a dream, he departed for the region of Galilee. He went and dwelt in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled: "He shall be called a Nazarene." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Until I was 8 years old, my family and I lived in Williamstown, New Jersey. And one day, my parents sat me and my brother Mike, who was around 5 years old at the time, and said, "We're moving." And we're like, "Cool. Where are we going? Like down the street?" And no, they go, we're moving to a place called Pennsylvania." Right? And I'm like, never been to Pennsylvania, have no idea where it is. I'm like, are we going to another country, right? But I remember, growing up in Lancaster, and it was a great place to live. But I remember, how hard must it have been to move? Because, and anyone here who has moved, it's like, even if you move down the street or even a short distance away, you got to pack up everything. You've got to, sell your house. You got to buy the new house. You got to get everything set up in the new house. Then if you have kids, then you got to set everything up in the kids' rooms. And there's so much that goes in to moving. But what happens though is when you have to move or you do move, it's important that you stay together as a family, because when you stay together as a family, no matter where you move or no matter where life takes you, you always know that you have a home, not only just any literal home, but also you have a home, the home that exists between the love that a family has for one another. And in our gospel today, as we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family, we hear about a move or multiple moves that Jesus, Mary, and Joseph had to go through. Now on Christmas, they're in Bethlehem, but they're also receiving word about King Herod. So there is this prophecy that there was going to be a king that would rise up and would become the greatest king that Israel had ever known. So King Herod, because he is so paranoid and so filled with rage and anger, thinking that a king would be better than him, what he does is that he orders the massacre, the killing of every firstborn boy under the age of 3 in Israel. It was known as the Massacre of the Holy Innocents. It's actually, we had the mass or the feast day of the Holy Innocents yesterday morning. And so what happens is that, as we hear, an angel appears to Joseph in a dream and says, "It's not safe for you anymore in Bethlehem. You have to take Mary and Jesus elsewhere to a safe place." Now, imagine for a minute it's hard enough when you have a moving truck and you're just, you have the ability to have family and friends around you to help you move. Imagine Joseph, Mary, and Jesus, who is a newborn baby, having to move from Bethlehem to Egypt. That's not an overnight trip. It would have taken several weeks to arrive in Egypt. But Egypt was known as a safe haven for people who were fleeing out of fear for King Herod. So we can imagine that Mary and Joseph had a family outside of their own family. They had friends that they knew, that they loved, and that they in turn loved them. And so they felt comfortable. They were, of course, scared, as any parent would, but they knew that they had people around them that loved them, that saw them for who they were. And we can imagine that for the early years of Jesus' life, they had the ability to know that no matter what happened, they were protected and that they were safe. And that provided them with the love that they have for one another. They were able to grow up, and they were able to grow into the family that God wanted them to be. But then they also, a few years later, received word that King Herod has passed away. And now his son, Archelaus, is now ruling over Israel. Now, the thing about that is Joseph was still concerned. Like, what if Archelaus is going to continue the mission of his father? What is going to happen next? So what happens is that Joseph and Mary decide to move from Egypt to Nazareth. Now, it actually becomes like a running joke in the gospel. Later on, the apostle Nathanael will even say, what good could come from Nazareth? Because Nazareth was this little town in the middle of nowhere that seemingly nothing happened. There was not anyone there who was important. No one born there was important. No one did anything there that was important. It was almost like they were just this outcast town that no one even dared bother with. And if anyone even passed the town, it was almost like, oh, Nazareth. Moving on, right? There was nothing there that was worth any kind of attention, or just for even anyone to even pay or to give any of their time to. But that's the whole point, because according to the prophecy, the Messiah was going to be a Nazarene. None of this is by accident. All this is part of God's plan. God knew that his son was going to go into the world and save the world, but he also wanted his son to be raised in an environment that he was outside of the public eye. Because it wasn't like Jesus was just sent to Jerusalem and then was raised in this royalty, or just, or he was raised in a way that he was going to be destined whenever he was ready. Instead, God wanted his son to live a simple life. Think about that for a minute. You have Joseph, who was a simple, honest, good man, who was a carpenter, who took up work in Nazareth as a carpenter. You have Mary, the beautiful wife and the beautiful mother, the beautiful woman that she was, who was completely devoted to Jesus and Joseph. Then you have little Jesus, who went to school like any other boy, who played with the other boys and girls in the town, who enjoyed a childhood no different than anyone else. So because of that, it's so beautiful, just the love that the Holy Family had for one another, because the love that they had was what drew them together, is what united them together. And that is what saw them throughout anything that they went through all the moves, through the fear, through anything else. They made sure that what brought them together was knowing that they had one another and that God was with them no matter what. And think about St. Joseph also for a minute too. He's the only one in the family that could not love the way that Jesus and Mary loved, because Jesus and Mary had no sin. They loved so pure and so innocently, but Joseph was the one who had to love all the more. But his love was so beautiful because he loved Jesus and Mary with every ounce of love that he had in his body, or in his soul, in his very being. He made sure the love that he had for his wife and his son was so they always knew that Joseph was someone that they could look to as a protector, as a provider, but also someone who provides a witness to God's love for them. And there's a message there for all of us. We live in a world, we live in a society where there are so many broken families. So many families have been torn apart, whether that be by divorce, whether that be by moves, whether that be by choices made within the family or by certain family members, whatever it may be. There are so many families today that are not united. And if that's you, if you've been having an issue, especially during this holiday season, around this Christmas time, whether it's be with your husband, with your wife, your ex-husband, your ex-wife, your son, your daughter, your brother, your sister, your parents, whoever it may be, especially if it happened a while ago, have you ever sat down and actually thought to yourself, why am I so upset? Why am I so mad? Right? It could be like you don't even remember why you were mad or upset in the first place, but it's because you or the other person involved in the dispute never took the opportunity to actually take the first step and actually attempt to heal whatever is dividing you, whatever is separating you from one another and the love that you are supposed to have for one another. So the message there for us as it relates to the Holy Family, as we see we have our beautiful Holy Family statue, is that they knew that despite the struggles that they would encounter, they never let that divide them. They always made sure they were there for one another. And that's what we have to do within our own families. It doesn't mean we're not going to have arguments. It doesn't mean we're not going to make mistakes. It doesn't mean we're not going to always agree with one another. But we always have to be there for one another. And that is so important today because all families need to be united. All families need to know that within the family, there is love for one another. For parents especially, the greatest gift that a parent can give their child or children is knowing that their mom and their dad love them, that their mom and dad are proud of them. And if they go through hard times, if they go through struggles, that they don't tear their kids down, but instead build them up and help them to understand, what happened or how did you get into this situation and how that can be avoided going forward. That is the greatest gift that a child will always carry with them, that they know that their parents love them. And for children, for all the kids here, this is something that I had to learn and everyone has to learn. Your mom and dad are not perfect. I know, right? Crazy. But the thing about that is there is no book, there is nothing that prepares you to be a parent. There's nothing that prepares you that when you were placed in your mom and your dad's arms for the first time, they knew exactly what to do, and they knew exactly what to say, and they knew exactly how their life and your life was going to play out. Being a parent is one of the most challenging vocations, one of the most challenging calls that God that God can give, but it is also one of the most rewarding and one of the most beautiful choices and calls that God could possibly give. So kids, look at your mom and dad and appreciate the fact that they have made so many sacrifices to give the life that you have now. They have put aside their personal dreams, their personal ambitions to make sure that you have every opportunity to live your life to the fullest. That is something that so many times we don't see behind the scenes that your parents do for you, that you'll never really know about, but it's happening. Because all parents are called to love their kids, but children are all called to love their parents in every way possible. And so in that way, also the greatest gift that parents and children can give to one another is for parents that for their kids, no matter where life takes them, no matter where they go into this world, they always know that they have a home that they can come back to. Whenever the hardships and the struggles in life come forth, they know they have a bed to sleep in and a table to eat at. They always know they have a mom or a dad or a brother or a sister to always welcome them home no matter where they go. And then for kids, the greatest gift that you can give your parents is to always know that one day you can take care of them the way that they have taken care of you all these years. The sacrifices they made for you, you in turn one day can make those same sacrifices in your own way to make sure that your parents are always loved and respected the way that they should be. You know, during COVID and after the lockdown, I remember talking to a number of families. I was at Holy Name of Jesus in Harrisburg for my first assignment. And I remember talking to so many families, and they're like, it's crazy. It's the first time we ever had, a family dinner in years, maybe ever. It's the first time we ever had a movie night, a game night. It's something that we never knew really what that felt like. But so many families came to me and said, it united us in so many beautiful ways that we never thought possible. It's because they were united in love for one another. So let us today and every day, through the witness of the Holy Family, may Jesus, Mary, and Joseph always move us to always stay connected and united to one another. And may they always provide the witness that we need, that truly what binds families together is not only their love for one another, but also their love for God. Praise be Jesus Christ, through the intercession of Joseph and Mary, now and forever.